The state of Michigan has many connections to black baseball, including Moses Fleetwood Walker, who long believed to be the first African American to play Major League Baseball. It turns out about 15 years ago we found out there was a black player from Brown College in Providence who played one game, and no one knew that he had played before Moses Fleetwood Walker. Moses Walker and his brother Weldon Walker played with Toledo in 1884. That was then in the American Association, which was a major league at that time. Both Walker brothers had also played college baseball at the University of Michigan. Bud Fowler, who was the first black professional player in the 19th century, played in Lansing for a while. Bud probably played in 24 different places or for 24 different teams, so he didn't have a strong connection to Lansing, but he did play in Lansing. And his biggest connection to the state of Michigan is that he, along with Grant Home Run Johnson, founded the famed Page Fence Giants of Adrian in 1895. They were a club that for a year to 2 years were almost invincible, touring the country, playing very few home games in Adrian, but a few, touring the country and beating the pants off all challengers, mostly white. The Negro League started really in 1920 when the first organized major professional Negro League was founded by Ruth Foster in Chicago. And the Detroit Stars, who had begun the previous year in 1919 in Detroit, were one of the charter members of the Negro National League. The Detroit Stars played at Mack Park on the east side of Detroit from 1920 to 1929. Mack Park is just south of the intersection of Fairview and Mack, just north of Southeastern High School. That's where it was. And they played there until 1929. In July 1929, there was a devastating fire that burned down the primary grandstand at Mack Park and injured, depending on which reports you believe, 100 to 200 fans, most of them African American. The owner of the Detroit Stars did not offer any compensation and didn't even appear to be sympathetic to the injured fans. Fortunately, no one was killed, which caused a lot of resentment in the African American community. And so the next year, the Stars moved to Hamtramck. A lot of people think that move is inexplicable because they remember the tensions and the acrimony between the African American and the Polish American communities in Detroit in the 20th century. But in fact, in 1930, African Americans and Polish Americans got along probably better than any other white ethnic group got along with the black community. And so it was a logical thing to move there. They were closer to Black Bottom and Paradise Valley. Hamtramck was a good place to be located along the Baker Street line. The ballpark was 1 block from the Baker Street line, which carried many African American workers to the Rouge plant and elsewhere to their jobs. The Stars played in Hamtramck in 30 and 31. In 1930, they lost the championship game, Game 7 of the Negro National League, to the St. Louis Stars, despite the heroics of one Norman Turkey Stearns, who was their star hitter. Norman Stearns came to Detroit in 1923 to play with the Detroit Stars and became one of the greatest Negro League players ever and one of the greatest baseball players of all time. He was an outfielder who, except for the fact that he batted left-handed, you might think he was like Willie Mays. He could hit with power, and he won multiple Negro League home run titles. He hit for high average. He was fast. He ran the bases well. He stole bases. He had great range in the outfield, and he was well respected amongst all the black players. He never got in trouble, never drank, never caroused, and that was unusual for all ball players at the time. Ball players before World War II were a hard drinking crew, all black and white. So Turkey Stearns played in Detroit. He is the greatest black ball player to play at baseball in Detroit, and that includes the Detroit Tigers and their great players like Willie Horton and Lou Whitaker. And in 1931, the Detroit Stars folded, casualty of the Great Depression, along with the Negro National League. So in 1932, you had a new team in Hamtramck. It was called the Detroit Wolves. That team had 5 future Hall of Famers on its roster, including Cool Papa Bell, who we've heard about tonight, and also Smokey Joe Williams, who was one of the greatest Negro League pitchers. Some people said that Smokey Joe Williams was as good a pitcher as Satchel Paige, if one can imagine that. And the Wolves lasted less than 1 season, and then Detroit had a new Detroit Stars team in 1933, which folded after 1 year, a new team in 1937, which folded after 1 year, and after that, Detroit never had another major Negro League club, although there was a thriving semi-pro black baseball scene in Detroit. The Negro Leagues saw their heyday in the 1940s, mostly on the East Coast because of the wartime economy, which improved the economic conditions of African American communities. But the reintegration of baseball with Jackie Robinson, the well-known story in the late 40s, caused a collapse of the Negro Leagues. Because once there were black players playing in the major leagues, African American fans went to see them, and they abandoned essentially watching Negro League games. So the Negro Leagues collapsed because of the success of black ball players in Major League Baseball. And I've asked him to put this photograph up here of Turkey Stearns, because when I look at this photograph, which I think is the single greatest photograph associated with the Negro Leagues, and trust me, there are very, very many great photographs. What I see is the story of black baseball in Turkey Stearns' eyes. This was 1979 Tiger Stadium. Turkey Stearns was not long for this world at this point. I can't tell you what he's thinking, but I can tell you what I see. I see in his eyes the story of the Negro Leagues and black baseball, and I see that story as a triumph of determination over discrimination and a triumph of dignity overcoming despair. If you'd like more information about the Negro Leagues in Detroit, you can check out our website at hamtramckstadium.org. There's a lot more information there. There's also a way to contact me if you have any questions. I'd be glad to answer them by email. Okay? Thanks very much.